Okay, so this is a review on religion, chapter 6. Religion is part of culture. Okay, so if you think back to culture, the most important part of our culture is, of course, language, right? Language is number one. The number two most important thing then is religion. And what we mean by that is that language and religion will influence the way you live, and they're great examples of culture and why they're important because they are learned. Right? You learn how to speak a language, and then you learn a religion, and you're brought into that either by your parents or the community which you live, or by making a conscious choice to learn the religion. Right? So these are great examples of culture and why they're such important complexes. All right. But what we talked about in terms of religion and class was the differences between universalizing and ethnic religions. Okay, and so what the differences between those. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about what they are, give you some examples of each one. So universalizing religions, these tend to offer some sort of universal truth about the world and people, about the afterlife, whatever it may be, and they claim to have this this particular truth. Okay, they actively seek new members. Whether that be through missions, through prophetizing, but they're reaching out and they're constantly trying to attract more people to them. Okay, the universalizing religions represent the three largest religions in the world, and that would be Christianity, Islam, and Buddhism. Okay, and they have about a third of the world believe in one of those three universalizing religions. And one of the reasons for that with seeking out new members is that they diffuse by expansion diffusion. Okay, and so we'll show you some examples of that, exactly what we mean. So by trying to actually seek out new people, that religion is diffused around the world. Ethnic religions are associated with a particular group of people or a particular place and a particular place. Okay, ethnic religions are not evangelical. They do not seek out local new people. People are either converting to them by choice, or you're brought into this religion primarily by birth. Okay. Ethnic religions can diffuse, but they do not diffuse as rapidly and as quickly, and it's primarily through relocation diffusion. Okay, so they tend to stay in the place located with that ethnicity or that place. Great examples of ethnic religions. The world's largest ethnic religion is Hinduism, and second would be Judaism. Would be a great example of that. Both of them are associated with particular places. Most of the world's Hindus live in India, and about 60 to 70% of the world's Jews live in Israel. Okay, something along those lines. Does that make sense? Okay, so someone just asked a question about whether or not it would be whether or not universalizing religions are easier to become a part of versus ethnic religions. And after we had a short conversation, we determined that yeah, that is the case. So universalizing religions tend to make it a little bit easier to join because they are evangelical. They want people to join it. Versus ethnic religions, where they don't. It's not as if they want to exclude people, but because it's associated with a particular ethnic group or particular place, the process is a little bit more difficult for people who are not part of that original ethnicity. Okay, so good question, Mary Kate. Thanks for asking it. Okay, so one of the other key topics we talked about related to religion is diffusion. Okay, so we know that where places start are called the cultural hearth, and so these are the cultural hearths and diffusion patterns of the world's three major universalizing religions: Christianity, Islam, and Buddhism. So we look at Buddhism is in green, Christianity in purple, and Islam in orange. And what we notice by each one of these, they diffused primarily through this kind of a process. Okay, so they start in the cultural hearth, and then we go through a period of relocation. People are moving, right? And so in all these cases, people have to move through them. But in all of these cases, in the case of Islam and Christianity, we also get a hierarchical diffusion. So in the case of Christianity, when the Roman Empire accepts Christianity as the official religion, that was a very important place. And then that led to contagious diffusion, where people within the empire start to accept it because Rome does. Okay, Islam is the same thing. As the Muslim empire expanded throughout the Middle East and Africa, they were an important place, and then they started to impose or request people convert to Islam as they conquered them, and then you got a contagious diffusion element of it as well. So the universalizing religions kind of moved from relocation to hierarchical to contagious. Okay, so clear. Buddhism kind of moves the same thing, except there wasn't the same acceptance at the hierarchical diffusion level. There wasn't necessarily an acceptance by a major empire. So they kind of go from relocation to contagious as people start to accept this new kind of thinking. But you can see the only one that really leaves Asia or the Middle East is Christianity. And Christianity is diffused around the world through colonialism from the Western European powers. So as places like the United Kingdom and Spain and Portugal start to explore the world and start to reach other places, they of course take Christianity with them. And that's why Christianity became the world's largest universalizing religion. One of the other things that we should know about religions also is the organization of sacred spaces. So when we think about sacred spaces, we want to think, what do those spaces look like and where are they located? And because that says a lot about the community and their values related to those particular religions. So you should absolutely know that Christianity's, we say churches with Christianity, mosques with Islam, pagodas with Buddhism. And the placement of those particular sacred spaces within the community can tell us a lot about how people act. So, for example, we might have a church might be the center of sporting events and community events within a community. Sometimes it's also the tallest building in a community. That tells us that religion could be a very important part of the cultural landscape there. We also think about places like the mosques in Islam and the Kaaba stone and making a pilgrimage there. It's one of the 5 pillars of Islam to make a pilgrimage to this place, this sacred space, then touch it, walk around it, and be part of that community. So understanding sacred spaces and their location and the activities around them are also important to understanding culture and the role of religion in that particular place. On the study guide, it also says to know the beliefs of the universalizing religions. I'm not going to go through that. You can look that up in your textbook and go back and look at the chart on that. But you should be familiar with the basic beliefs that we discussed in class. And there's also some videos posted on Classroom that you can use for that. The last point I really do want to talk about related to religion is some of the calendars and then religious conflict. So talking about calendars, what do they all have in common? Well, almost all of the world's religions use a calendar that's based kind of on the seasons. It's seasonal and it's cyclical. Judaism and Islam use a lunar-based calendar. The Catholic Church also uses kind of a combination of a lunar and a solar calendar. But they all have holidays or traditions that are based on the actions of their founders. And they use it to, again, organize their religious space and their religious time, because time also is space. Right. Finally, religious conflicts. We talked a lot about religious conflicts in class. Of course, I listed some of the major ones on the answer to the study guide, but you should understand the foundations of those conflicts, where those conflicts are occurring, and why those conflicts are occurring as part of our study of religion.